This is the Jerry Callahan Show.
I had a quick preview of what's to come on Boston Sports Radio today. You ready? You ready for this? You ready for this? Here it is. The refs screwed us. They screwed us. They suck. I can't believe that call in the third quarter when Marcus Smart, when he pushed off and he fell down. And why they screwed us? Why won't they call the game fairly? They're gonna screw us out of an NBA title. Those friggin' refs. All right, that's it for our preview of Boston Sports Radio. I'll just give you a quick stat before we'll get into the Celtics game. It was an amazing game. It was a crazy game. It was one of those games that you feel like I've never seen this before. That's why sports is great, as we always tell you. There are days you watch and you say, "Holy crap, I've never seen this before." We can get to that. We get to the incredibly poor game Steph Curry had. But quick stat. Free throws last night in game 5, won by the Warriors at home. Free throws, Celtics 31, Warriors 15. Fouls, Warriors 28, Celtics 16. Celtics had 16 fouls called on an entire game. And we're going to listen today to people say all day how the refs screwed them. It's just absurd, but we can get into that. And so much more from this wild and crazy game. The series is 3-2, coming back to Boston on Thursday. Thursday, we will make history in the city of Boston. We will make history with the biggest, worst traffic jam in the city's history. There's another preview for you. The worst traffic jam in history. You will have 35,000 people heading to the Country Club in Brookline for the first day of the U.S. Open. You will have a home game for the Boston Red Sox. Not that anybody cares. I'm sure there's lots of, neighborhood kids getting tickets from people, season ticket holders who don't want to go because there are better things to do. But there will be, 20,000 people heading to Fenway, and there'll be a Celtics game at home that night, which means the whole city will be just jammed up. Good luck to people trying to get to any of those games. You better take the T, take the train, take an Uber, walk, ride your bike. It's going to be nuts. Speaking of the U.S. Open, Phil Mickelson stepped before the media for 25 minutes of uncomfortable questions. And I'm not sure why it's all about Mickelson. I guess he's the biggest star. He got the most money from the Saudis, but he was asked about taking blood money from the Kingdom of Saud, and he addressed it uncomfortably. He didn't do what I think he should do. He should say, what about China? What about China? If we're going to suddenly put everything to a morality test, why is it okay to take money from communist China, but not from the theocratic dictator, the kingdom? He didn't say that. He should. Stephen A., my prediction came true. ESPN is bashing Jack Del Rio, but as usual, they are ignorant, they are ill-informed, they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to January 6th or about the BLM riots. We'll play you some of that Stephen A.'s take on the Jack Del Rio story. And Stan Van Gundy, NBA retread, who's been hired and fired by like 17 different teams, made millions. His last job, he made $5 million for 8 months in New Orleans. He thinks people should stop complaining about inflation and start worrying about the real crisis facing America, the insurrection, the attempted overthrow of the U.S. government by a bunch of unarmed MAGA morons. We'll give you Stan Van Gundy's take, and you know who doesn't have a take? LeBron James. A kid was murdered, beaten to death in the parking lot of LeBron James's high school. And LeBron James, who's always quick to tweet about violence, about crimes that happen anywhere in the country. This happened right at his high school, and he has had nothing to say. We'll tell you about that really disturbing story, and LeBron James telling silence on that today on the Callahan Show, brought to you by Athletic Greens. All right, Ironhead. I know you lost money last night. Do you want to do the Celtics game, or do you want to get into this Jack Del Rio thing? Because I feel like I know I got one prediction right. I got one prediction right. I told you what would happen on ESPN. They would demonize and villainize and lie about Jack Del Rio, but I didn't. I did not see this coming in the NBA. Here's why I don't spend personally. I've never felt like I spent a lot of time, whether it was on the radio or on this show with you. I don't spend a lot of time with the nuts and bolts, getting into the weeds on the NBA and telling you what's happening. Even though I'm watching, I think I know what's going on here. You know why it's futile, it's pointless to spend too much time breaking it down and analyzing it, because no one knows nothing. That's why. No one. I don't care if you're Stan Van Gundy or Jeff Van Gundy. I don't care if you're Bob Ryan or Jackie McMullen. Clearly, some people know their NBA. Nobody told me what was going to happen last night. Nobody saw that one coming, which is why it was so entertaining, unless you're a bitter Celtics fan this morning, pissed off at the way the refs called the game. I mean, you have to appreciate what you saw last night. It was something nobody expected, something nobody saw coming. In fact, just the opposite. I mean, I said just the opposite, that the Celtics were going to win the series despite the fact that the Warriors have by far the best player out there. They were going to win the series because they had the better, deeper, bigger, tougher team, but the Warriors had the better player, the best player. And there was talk, I believe, on ESPN over the last couple of days. One of the questions, one of those dumb, first take kind of questions, was, will Steph Curry win the series, win the finals MVP, even if his team loses? Because Steph Curry has not won a finals MVP, and he sure seemed to be on his way. The game he had in game 4 in Boston was one of the great performances in NBA finals history, when he scored 43. And I don't think he had an open, uncontested shot. It was off balance, 30-footers. He was just amazing. And I said the Celtics would overcome that. They would win. Curry might win the MVP, but he clearly was the best player. What we saw last night, I couldn't take my eyes off it. Even when it was over at the end and they took him out for the last few minutes, Kerr took Curry out, but he had a couple of, final heaves from 3-point land, thinking they probably would like to get him that three. He hadn't had a game without a three since November of 2018, 300 and something straight games. In his last 38 straight playoff games, he's had at least 2 3-pointers. He's never had a game in the postseason without a 3-pointer. He's just, the greatest shooter ever. He was having a great series. He was just unstoppable. If you gave him a little bit of daylight, he was going to nail the three. He didn't have one last night. He was 0 for 9 at home. He was 7 for 22 from the floor. It was remarkable. And they weren't close. If you watch the game, Steph Curry, they weren't in and out. They weren't just missing. He was way off. You're thinking when Curry clanked, I don't know, his 5th or 6th 3-pointer, you're saying, okay, the Celtics are going to take control of this game any minute, because the best, he kept shooting. He took 9 of them and missed them all. But somehow the Celtics lose, and lose handily. I don't know. What was the line on this one, Ironhead? They lose by 10.
It was Celtics plus 3.5 or 4.
Plus 3.5. So the Warriors won the game. They covered. They took control of the series, despite the fact that Steph Curry, the best player out there, was as bad as he's ever been in an NBA game. Just amazing how bad he was. And it wasn't just, by the way, it wasn't just shooting threes. He looked in a funk when he was driving with the ball, when he was, trying to make his move, try to get to the hoop. He looked bad. He just looked bad. He only had 1 turnover. I don't care. He looked bad. He played 37 minutes. Like I said, 7 for 23, for 22 from the floor. And obviously he can be a liability on defense, because he's not that big, not that strong. And sometimes he flops on the offensive end and doesn't even get back on defense. But didn't matter. Andrew Wiggins came up huge, had 28 points. He was just amazing. He had 13 rebounds. He picked up the slack. Klay Thompson hit 5 threes. He was good. But it's incredible that the end of that game immediately, Celtics fans Twitter and I'm sure Boston sports radio was talking about the refs. The refs. I'm sorry. I know you're pissed. I know you thought you were going to win this series. I still think you can because you're going to win. I think the Celtics will win at home Thursday, and then you have a game 7. And I'll speak for everybody who's watching. I'll speak for every expert who's jotting down their notes and watching the thing on replay and studying. They know nothing. Nobody knows what's going to happen in game 6 or 7 for that matter. So I hope it goes 7. I hope we get to see an extremely intense game 7 go down to the wire in San Francisco on Sunday night, Father's Day. That will be awesome. But Jason Tatum's taking a beating, even though he is, he was hell of a lot better than Steph Curry in this game. Tatum scored 27 points, hit 5 threes, had 10 boards. But in the fourth quarter, he was 1 of 5 in 11 minutes in the fourth quarter, turned the ball over, had 4 turnovers in the game. But again, the
2 air balls too.
That's true. 2 air balls. But I think that was things were getting desperate at that point. But again, the Warriors had they had 15 free throws for the whole game. They hit 13 of them. The Celtics missed 10 free throws. The Celtics, and they play hard and they play tough and they're intense. And you could call a foul ostensibly on Marcus Smart on every play. He's that physical. He's a great defensive player, but he is grabbing guys and pushing guys. And when they called that slap in the face of Jordan Poole and Jeff Van Gundy called it a flop. I'm not sure. The first one he missed, and the second one he came down with another face slap. He might have caught a little nose. It was a flop, but it could have been a foul as well. And then everyone was bitching when Klay Thompson pushed off a little bit and Smart went down like he got shot by a sniper, and Klay Thompson drained the 3. That's a flop too. Marcus Smart is strong as hell. He is sturdy and he is stout, and you don't go down that easy legitimately. You have to flop. So he flopped. Klay Thompson hit the 3, and then everyone in Celtic land was bitching, but they got more calls. More calls went their way than went the Warriors' way, and you really can't make a case for how the refs screwed them. I know they had a couple of technicals. I don't know what was said. The official said Ime pointed at him, but whatever. Said he got out of the coach's box. Whatever. That was one technical foul. They lost by double digits. So I'm glad I'm not gonna be sitting there, taking calls from angry Celtics fans all day about how the refs screwed us and will they give us a chance in Game 6? You had your chances. You had plenty of chances. What they have? I think before garbage time, the Celtics had 1 basket in the fourth quarter, and then they had a couple of garbage time hoops where the Warriors weren't even playing any defense, but they were absolutely awful in the fourth quarter. Turned the ball over 18 times. They're on pace to set a record for turnovers. I believe Jason Tatum now has 95 turnovers in the postseason. I mean, he tries to do too much. I said that before the series. He gets in trouble when he thinks he's going to take over and he's going to slash to the hoop and make his little spin move. And sometimes he gets on a roll and he looks great. And other times it's doing the other team a favor. And last night was one of those cases where he just was turning the ball over. He was careless. Oh, that's the other thing you're going to get on sports radio today. They got to limit the turnovers. That's a great, astute observation. Too many turnovers. Really? You know what? If I'm the coach, if I'm Ime, I gather the team around today at practice. I say, hey, guys, let's limit the turnovers. I got an idea. I studied the film. We have to stop turning the ball over. Would you agree, Ironhead? Do you think they should stop turning the ball over?
That's a great idea. I think they should also make free throws. That'd be good. They missed 10 of them.
That's a good point. You missed 10 free throws. You miss what'd you miss? They missed 21 threes. That was an amazing. I mean, another thing you just don't ever see The Celtics set a record, an NBA Finals record, for starting the game 0 for 12 on three-pointers. 0 for 12. And you're watching this, you're saying they're going to get smoked. They can't hit the three like most NBA teams. They rely on the three. Then they go off and hit 8 in a row. 8 three-pointers in a row. Both of those are records. The 0 for 12 start and the most threes in a row by an NBA team. But it is amazing. Like who used to say? Was it Rick Pitino? Make or miss league. A lot of coaches say it's a make or miss league. You make the shots, you win. You miss the shots, you lose. Again, another very deep thought. But that's what happened with the Celtics. They were 0 for 12 and getting smoked. They come back, hit 8 in a row, and get right back in it and take the lead. And I'm saying, I was thinking the Celtics are going to win this game because Curry was so bad, and he's one of those guys who's just such a great shooter, great scorer that you say he won't stop shooting. If you're a mediocre player, good player, if you're whoever, if you're a Andrew Wiggins or Al Horford, you're missing, you stop shooting. You just don't keep launching. But Curry's one of those guys in that stratosphere, one of those elite scorers, elite shooters that you say he's going to keep shooting, which was good for the Celtics because he kept shooting and kept missing. And it didn't matter in the end. I think one thing everyone's going to predict for the next 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, is Curry will come out firing and Curry will have a much better game in Game 6. Hell, you think for a shooter, kind of a streak shooter, when he's more than that, but being at home, that would help. He was spectacular in Boston, in a hostile environment, in a gym that he's not real used to, and he was awful at home. So who knows? I think he'll be great. He's too good to go out like that or to have another game like that. And he won't. He'll have a good game, and it'll be a problem for the Celtics, but they'll win Game 6, setting up a just an awesome Sunday of sports. An awesome Sunday where you get the U.S. Open final round in Brookline. The boys are all here. All those live traders. We should just do this. We should just get into this too, because Phil Mickelson, it's so awkward. It's so weird. But you know what? In the end, unless you're going to say Chinese money is okay, it's good, Saudi money is bad, if you take money from the Chinese Communist Party, who have people in concentration camps, who use slave labor, who have forced sterilization, forced abortion, we know the human rights violations, if that's good, and if you can do that in your mind, have that moral, equivalency or lack of equivalency, good for you. And you can condemn all the guys who took the Saudi money. Good for you. That's kind of what the media is doing. That's what a lot of the people in the media, that's what Christine Brennan I think she's from USA Today now. I don't know. I don't remember ever reading her, but she's always front row setter in these issues, and a very predictable, squishy, bleeding heart liberal who tried to grill Phil Mickelson yesterday. We'll get to that because it's funny. A whole bunch of guys are taking Saudi money, right? Including Dustin Johnson and Patrick Reed and Ricky Fowler, we think, and Kevin Na. And it's like they're going to let Phil be the guy, wear black, grow his beard out, and face the questions because he's the biggest star. He took the most money, but also because there's a biography out about him now, a tell-all by Alan Shipnuck, where they claim he's lost $40 million gambling and he needs the money. And he's had to sell his private jet, and the Saudis came to the rescue. Nobody's going to defend Saudi Arabia. Nobody's going to defend the kingdom, except maybe Joe Biden, which, again, I would throw this question, we got into this yesterday, to the people who are going to condemn guys who took Saudi money. Your president is on his way to Saudi Arabia to bow before the king, to beg them to pump more oil, to release more oil. If they're such tyrants, if they're such monsters, if they're so evil, why are we doing business with them? Why are we selling them all their weapons? We are propping them up is what we're doing. If they're so bad that you can't let them, pay our golfers, then why are you letting them buy all our weapons? Why are you begging them for oil? That's how sick I don't want to get sidetracked on this again, but that's how sick the Green New Deal nuts are. These people, these Ed Markeys and AOCs and the whole Democrat Party, they're this is their the strategy to shut down U.S. oil production, to no longer be independent, to shut down the pipeline, to shut down drilling in Alaska and Anwar and shut down the Keystone Pipeline for environmental reasons, and then go beg the theocratic fascists in Saudi Arabia to pump us oil, so it doesn't get too, so we have enough oil. What the hell is the difference? In fact, it's worse for them. They don't care about the environment. Here, we have all kinds of regulations when we pump oil, but to placate the lunatic left, the AOCs and the Ed Markeys, Joe Biden shut down U.S. oil production. At the same time, we're asking Venezuela and Saudi Arabia to pump more oil. So obviously it has nothing to do with the environment, the earth, fossil fuels. It's just throwing a bone to these lunatics who don't care about the economy, who don't care if it makes any sense. They just want to feel good. Oh, good, we shut down that awful, evil pipeline. We're no longer drilling in Alaska, and we're not going to hurt the polar bears. But what about what they're doing in Saudi Arabia? Aren't they doing the same thing? They're drilling through the ground into the earth, getting their oil and selling it to us. But anyway, that's the kind of the destruction from the Green New Dealers. They're forcing their puppet president to go on bended knee to Saudi Arabia. So we'll take their oil, but you shouldn't take their money if you're a golfer. But we'll get to Phil, because he still gets to play in the U.S. Open. He'll go out there, I guess, with no logos again, or put the black paint. He wore an Augusta. I'm not sure why he can't wear an Augusta jacket in London the other day, but put some magic mark or some Sharpie to on the logo, and didn't wear any of his logos because all the companies dumped him because he took the Saudi money, all the sponsors.
Yeah, if you watched Live too, it looked like everyone else except Dustin Johnson lost RBC, but other than that, it looked like everyone had all their sponsors still.
That's right. Dustin had TaylorMade still, right? Because I was wondering if they were going to dump him, and I guess they're free to make their call. But the idea, again, I'm no fan of Saudi Arabia. God knows, I don't know why we. I don't know why our president's over there begging them. It's disturbing. That's much more disturbing than a golfer playing a tournament in London and cashing a check from Saudi, from the Saudi government. But Phil has to take the brunt. He has to take all the bullets, and the other guys kind of lurk in the shadows, which is fine. He's the biggest star, making the most money. But he didn't go there with China, I don't think. I know he stood before the media for 25 minutes, and it was uncomfortable at times, and we'll get to it. But he didn't do the China thing. He'll probably do that off the record, pull someone aside, say, why are we getting crushed for taking blood money when the tournament, the tour takes millions, probably billions in the end from China? When Nike takes money from China, why is it all on us? But I'm not going to sit there and say these are bad people, bad Americans for taking Saudi money. They should stick to the PGA Tour and just take that Chinese money. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's sad that the 9/11 families, the victims' families, are watching this and taking offense to this and want answers, and they're writing letters to the players. But there's a hell of a lot of victims of the Chinese Communist Party too. Should they send letters to Rory McIlroy and to Tiger Woods today and say, how can you take that Chinese money? Or should they send letters to the NBA and say, why are you taking money from these evil, awful people? It just seems like a real slippery slope to say, well, you can't take money from Saudi Arabia. You can only take money from China. Or maybe the UAE, that's okay, but not Saudi Arabia. And I expect we'll get to that. But at this point, they're just going to make Phil and the rest of the Live guys feel uncomfortable and feel disloyal and feel like they have to apologize for their new employer. But I'll give Phil credit. I don't think he maybe is required by the rules to face the media. But he's Phil Mickelson. He could have blown it off and said, I got a headache. Not today. I got to practice. I think it's pretty tough for him to compete in the U.S. Open. He's too old, and he just has to be somewhat of a basket case mentally at this point. But the big attraction, the big moment yesterday was when the full press tent was there, and Phil, dressed in black, stood up and faced the questions about the blood money from the kingdom. Let's listen. This is Christine Brennan grilling him, babbling on, not necessarily asking a question, doing a little presentation for all the world. And finally, Phil says, "Is there a question in there?" Which was a good question by Phil. But let's listen to the question. You have the question here, right, Ironhead?
Yep.
Let's listen to the question and the answer in Brookline yesterday.
Right, Phil. Christine Brennan. Hi there. As you've been criticized by many people, as you referred to. New York Post, Brian Wacker, reported that the 9/11 families sent you and others a letter alluding, of course, to Osama bin Laden and the 15 of 19 hijackers that the Saudis, of course, sent, and that they say now you are a partner with them and you appear to be pleased in your business with them. Terry Strada is the person, of course, who wrote this letter, and her husband got on the plane in Boston that flew into the World Trade Center. And they say the deaths of your fellow Americans.
No, I've read all that. Is there a question in there?
Yes, there is. How do you explain to them, not to us, but to them, what you've decided to do?
I would say to the Strada family, I would say to everyone that has lost loved ones, lost friends in 9/11, that I have deep, deep empathy for them. I can't emphasize that enough. I have the deepest of sympathy and empathy for them.
What a dirty question.
And he just leaves it at that, and I don't blame him. I bet he looks like he's thinking of what I'd like to say. I'd like to say, what about whatever? What about, I mean, how my father made a living, and I'm glad he did, was he worked at Raytheon. Like a lot of people in New England. They sold lots of things to Saudi Arabia. Should I feel bad? That's how the food was put on the table in my house. There's lots of people in New England who I believe they were the number one or two employer in Massachusetts. Till recently, they're now moving out, of course. They can only handle so much of this screwed up left-wing place, and they're moving to Virginia. But, I mean, if you're going to trace and track and say, well, that money's from somebody, some immoral place or person or prince, can't take that. But no one will ever ask, will they? Will they ever ask, Rory McIlroy or John Rahm or whoever's say, do you feel bad about all the victims of there's millions of victims of the Chinese Communist Party. You feel bad? You're taking their money. What do you say to them? It's a legit question, and I think Mickelson handled it fine. I don't think he expounded like he probably wanted to, but I'd like to hear it. Like to hear them ask all the guys, Sergio and Fowler and Reed, and ask them all that, and then turn around and ask all the guys who are playing for the PGA Tour, how do you feel that the PGA Tour is in business with the Chinese Communist Party? How does that make you feel?
Didn't Mercedes-Benz make the German tanks for World War II?
Yeah. There's a great riff on that from Sarah Silverman. One of the most offensive riffs I've ever heard. But how the Mercedes-Benz, yes, they were. Yeah. I'm not going to get into it now.
Yeah.
Save that for see if Blind Mike wants to do it. See, that's a good comedy take on the most offensive thing you've ever heard. And Sarah Silverman has a few. I'd say if you went top 10 most offensive riffs from comedians, Sarah Silverman would have 2 or 3 in the top 10 for sure. But we don't have to get into that now. But there's always going to be at some point where you're taking money from somebody, not the most, redeeming human beings. And this is the case, and they're using it. And Jay Monahan and the media, the complicit media, will use it, say, how do you feel? But a couple things, I think all the players can rationalize it. Hell, they've all played in Dubai. They've all played in the Middle East. They've played in places where it's illegal to be a homosexual. We know that. And they've all, again, cashed checks from communist China. So, I guess they'll all be asked that question. They'll all have their own answer. And again, ask the people who are stuck with the PGA Tour as well. But here's what I think is going to, when we're all said and done and we move on past this and get through the US Open and they go off and play their live tournaments and we watch on YouTube and the PGA Tour goes on and plays their tournaments, is you're going to say, this is good for the tour. This is good for not the tour. It's good for the sport. There's been more intrigue. I've seen more people on Twitter who say, I never really care that much about golf. And maybe you watch the Masters, the US Open, but the intrigue is always good for anything, for sports or whatever, Hollywood or music. Intrigue, politics, intrigue is fun for if you're looking to get eyeballs, to get ratings, to get spectators, to get viewers. And this just adds so much intrigue. I believe Phil's playing in the first round with Kevin Na, a couple of prominent live golfers. And I'm curious, will they be booing him? Will they be rooting against him? There are people who are pissed that they didn't, that they turned their back on the PGA Tour after all the tour did for them. How could they do that? So there'll be people rooting against him, wishing the worst for him, which just adds intrigue. I mean, he's out there wearing all black with his beard and that kind of dour look on his face. It's a whole new Phil Mickelson. But the same with Dustin Johnson, Ricky Fowler, Bryson DeChambeau. They're all going to be viewed as turncoats by a certain number of fans, and that adds something. That adds a little element, a little edge to this. What if there's a, Dustin Johnson or Kevin Na or Patrick Reed's, final day, a live guy against a loyal PGA Tour guy going down the stretch, back nine. It'll be awesome. It'll be good for the sport and it'll be good for the viewers. But we'll see how it shakes out.
Live wins down the stretch. That would be something.
I have no problem with them grilling, although Christine Brennan's just trying to draw attention to herself. I have no problem with them grilling Phil, but let's grill everybody. Let's see how everybody feels about the source of the big money that they're all making. And don't we all have our price? Phil Mickelson didn't jump for, $5 million or $10 million. He jumped for $200 million. Settle all those scores. All the debts are now paid. And he'd won his majors, never won the US Open, but he won majors. He won Masters. He made money. He had a great career. He's a Hall of Famer. He's probably not going to win anymore anyway. He's 52, 53, and he's making $200 million. I think we all have our price. And Greg Norman and the Saudi prince, they matched, exceeded Phil's price. But all right, that is that's what we saw coming. And I'll tell you what else we saw coming is ESPN. They're not happy with Jack Del Rio, and I knew this would happen. I knew they'd say, he's downplaying January 6th, and he's racist, doesn't understand what BLM's all about. But this was interesting. You had a bunch of dopes on ESPN criticizing Jack Del Rio for being ignorant, which is just rich, ignorant from these idiots who think, 4 cops died and Brian Sicknick got beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. And we almost lost the government. All the typical stupid, ill-informed left-wing talking points. They were all repeated on ESPN. We'll get to that. And, we have Paul Pelosi's mugshot, which I never thought we'd get to see. Credit, by the way, to Jesse Waters. His show put major pressure on the cops and the DA out there, and finally got the mugshot. We haven't got the dash cam, but we got the mugshot. We'll show you that. And LeBron James, surprisingly, unusually silent about a violent crime right in his parking lot outside his high school. We'll tell you about that. But let me tell you about Radix first. No shocker. They spent a lot of time on First Take with Stephen A. and his crew talking about Jack Del Rio and the 100,000. You know, I got to get past this story because it pisses me off so much. It just, I mean, I cannot believe. And, you know, I tweeted about this. We talked about it yesterday. I can't believe we've reached this point where a man has to hand over $100,000 check for saying something that's not popular among the media or among the most of the institutions in this country. He wouldn't toe the line. He wouldn't tell the same lie about 9/11, about January 6th, which is worse than 9/11. Let's get it straight. He wouldn't tell that lie. He wouldn't lie about the BLM riots. He told the truth. He did it respectfully. He said he just wanted a conversation, just wanted a dialogue. That's all. He used a noun they didn't like, dust up, which is a vague term anyway. It just, it could, you know, it was a dust up. There was a lot of other things, but that upset people. We now have a new rule. You will offend. It is offensive not to repeat the same big lie that the media and the Democrats and professional sports and big tech and academia have all decided that this is how it's going to be. The BLM riots, which caused $2 billion in damages, killed 25 people, injured 2,000 cops. Those were for social justice. Those were cries for change. Those were for Black lives. And if you say, no, they were worse than January 6th, which they certainly were, you're not entitled to that opinion. It's not even an opinion, it's a fact, but you're not even entitled to those facts. You're not entitled to your own facts. That's the point we've reached. And if you dare step out of line, they will take money out of your pockets, $100,000. It's sad that we all can't agree that this is flat out un-American. That's what it is. It is un-American. But on cue, the clowns at ESPN came down hard on Jack Del Rio. And as you'd expect, they came from a place of ignorance. And I don't know which cuts we have here. Stephen A. was on with Ryan Clark as well as Marcus Spears, and they all agree, you know, Jack Del Rio was out of line and everything else. But I love Stephen A.'s take. He's ignorant, and Jack, I'd love to have explain to me what Jack Del Rio said or did that was ignorant. And he's white, so he can't know. Like, if you're white, you can't understand how much damage was done, or how many lives were lost, or how many cops were injured. What does being white or black have to do with that? If you compare numbers, stats, damage, length of time, injuries, death, what does it matter if you're white or black? I mean, you line the two up, you compare them. I mean, you can discuss it and say, you know, whatever the January 6th was not for as good a cause, I guess. You could say that as the BLM riots. But you can't say you don't understand the number of cops who are injured. Over here, you got 2,000. Over here, you have 140. Those are objective numbers. That's not debatable. But I guess, you know, where race is involved in politics and where just dopes on ESPN, have to chime in. I guess someone like Stephen A. can accuse Jack Del Rio of being ignorant, and isn't that rich? But let's listen to these two dopes discuss the dust up.
He's white. He's not black. And there's an awful lot of white people that cannot in any way identify with the plight that African Americans feel physically, emotionally, spiritually, subliminally. The list goes on and on and on. When are we going to stop expecting them to do that? We have to get to a point where we look at a Jack Del Rio and what he said and actually be gratified that there was somebody that was willing to be open about their ignorance. Guess why? Jack Del Rio shouldn't be vilified. He shouldn't be somebody that's excoriated and nobody wants to talk to him again. You know what black people should be willing to do? They should be able to walk right up to Jack Del Rio. Hey, how you doing? Let's have a conversation about what you said. Let me use this as an opportunity to educate you. Because if we're ever going to have any hope towards making this world a better place, Making somebody cower and hide and muzzle themselves and never feeling free to speak up only disguises what they're feeling, which harbors and harnesses their ignorance. Therefore, they walk around feeling ignorant, being oblivious to the kind of things that plague them and us and our society, and none of us get any better. But when he was willing to be open, I found nothing offensive about what he said. I thought it was ignorant. I thought it was ill-informed.
Whoa, bro. Sorry, hold it right there. Right there. God, $13 million a year. $13 million a year for him to spew this nonsense. It's like he ate a thesaurus and just spitting out words that don't even belong there. Like, look how many excoriated, I'm vilified, it's like gratified. I'm like, what the hell? Stephen A. Smith, who thinks, cops were murdered on January 6th, who thinks, the BLM riots were just about social justice, thinks Jack Del Rio is ignorant. We shouldn't hold it against him. He's just ignorant because he's white. Think of how freaking, if this were everything were equal, how offensive that would be. He's ignorant because he's white. Well, you know what, Stephen A., you're ignorant, not because you're black. There's nothing to do with it. You're just ignorant. You're just ill-informed. You accused Jack Del Rio of being ill-informed. You don't know what you're talking about. Again, what does the plight of black people have to do with the number of cops injured, with the damage done, with the places, the small businesses that were burned, with the people who were murdered, including mostly black people? What does that have to do with the plight of black people? The plight of black people. Listening to a guy making $13 million a year to spew that nonsense, and he's going to lecture us that somehow we don't understand. Don't understand what exactly? The plight of black people in America. You could discuss that all you want. Hell, as like he says, we'll have a discussion. What does that have to do with Jan 6 versus 9, which is summer of 2020, and which did more damage to the country? That's what Jack Del Rio was asking. That's all he was asking. That cost him $100,000. This garbage that Stephen A. is spewing will cost him nothing. Quite the contrary. He'll get $1 million a month for this. So he can be as ignorant as he wants, as inflammatory, incendiary. He can be as racist as he wants. And he's going to make $1 million a month. Jack Del Rio says, hey, I just want to have some dialogue, ask a question. It cost him $100,000. And by the way, it'll cost him more than that, because once he quits or gets fired, everyone's going to think he's radioactive but doesn't want to touch him, because of the racist things he said. It's just so backwards and upside down, and not unexpected from ESPN. But he just called Jack Del Rio ill-informed. I'd say this about Stephen A. He's ill-informed, but he's probably better informed than anyone else on this show. They all think, insurrection, overthrowing democracy. They could never explain what that means or how that happens. Or what does it mean? Marcus Spears, Ryan Clark, whatever. I don't even know. J.J. Redick. Exactly how was the QAnon shaman and a couple of hundred idiots, MAGA morons, going to overthrow democracy? No one ever has to explain that. Benny Thompson, Liz Cheney, they don't have to explain it. The media, no one. Explain exactly what they were going to do. They were going to murder Mike Pence, and then what? They were going to become the new dictator. How does that work? It's just so frustrating listening to this. And we'll get to that idiot Stan Van Gundy, who would guarantee will be 100% in agreement with this. But do we have any more from Stephen A? I know you could play him all day because he just babbles on and on and on. But anything else worth playing?
We just stopped right before the part you wanted to really hear.
Okay, let's. I know he was on this all day, but let's listen to more from the well-informed Stephen A. Smith.
Was ignorant. I thought it was ill-informed. I thought it was foolish for him to think that, but I appreciated the fact that he was honest enough to say, we're all Americans. Let's have a conversation. He didn't say something, go hide, not want to talk to people. He actually invited a conversation.
Oh, maybe not.
And just think, he just spent 2 minutes in a lot of nothing. He appreciates it. They had a conversation. I guess he agrees that you shouldn't be fined $100,000 for saying what he said.
Yeah, I appreciate that he wanted to have the conversation, but he's a friggin' idiot.
It just right.
It's messed up.
Okay, how about this? If you're Ryan Clark or whatever, the chick Molly, whatever, how about you say, what's he ill-informed on, Stephen? What's he got wrong? What is Stephen A? What is Jack Del Rio wrong about? Would he have an answer? He'd say, yeah, the plight of black people. Well, it doesn't matter. No one's talking about the motive. They're talking about the damage done to cities, to the country, and which was worse, January 6th versus the BLM riots of summer of 2020, which went on. There's only about 600 of them.
I was gonna say it's a lot longer than the summer too.
It's true. So 2 years, and if there's some whatever verdict they don't like, if that cop in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who shot the guy who took his taser, if he gets acquitted, he goes to trial, gets acquitted. Who they had little minor dust up in Grand Rapids after the shooting. If he gets acquitted, maybe we'll have a whole new round. That's it. When you think about it, if you don't think there's any repercussions, no price to pay for burning the local convenience store or throwing a brick at a cop, if there's no price to pay, why not? Why not? That's how you feel. You're pissed off. Go ahead and do it. That's the problem. One side faces repercussions. One side has people who are charged with trespassing who are still in jail after a year and a half, no bail. The other side, they firebomb a police cruiser, burn down a police station, and you're out in whatever, a year, 2 years, or less. You're bailed out immediately, and all charges are dropped. There's just two standards. That's what Jack Del Rio was talking about. That's what you're ignorant about, Stephen A. But that'll go on forever. We'll be talking about it, and we'll be able to refer to that word salad from Stephen A. Because I don't think he's ever gonna read up. But all right, we got a few other things to get to. I gotta get to I want to get this LeBron thing, but let's do Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm sorry, Karine Jean-Pierre, because I have a question. All right, let me ask the question, then I'll do Shay, and we'll get back to Karine Jean-Pierre. My question is, if I understand that the Biden administration, everything was about identity politics. That's why they chose Kamala Harris. That's why they chose Pete Buttigieg or Rachel Levine. And I understand you want to have people based solely on their immutable characteristics. You have to have a gay guy, a black woman, a black woman who's a lesbian, a transgender. You wanted to have all the colors of the rainbow. But couldn't you find somebody who was competent? I mean, you couldn't find somebody who was competent. We know what a disaster Kamala Harris is. We know there had to be a better choice. Stacey Abrams, for crying out loud. You could have walked down the street and found a black woman who was smarter and worked harder than Kamala Harris. But anyway, you wanted, I guess, a black woman, a gay black woman, to be your spokesman. That was the most important thing. I don't know how many gay black women are in this country. Maybe, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, millions. I don't even know. But this is the one you choose. This woman is so unbelievably in over her head. She's sitting there, just has to answer questions. The job is just lie for the president. Jen Psaki did it well. She just lied for the president every day. She can't do that. She's so overmatched. It's uncomfortable to watch. I understand. She's a person of color. Her parents are immigrants. She likes to have relations with other women. That's all very, very important. But what about competency? Honestly, this woman is incompetent. We'll play you that. Let me tell you about Shay. We'll get to that. Simple question. I think it was about baby formula, right? Simple question. Something to be ready for. And if you're watching along with us, you'll see how she just can't even find the answer in a notebook and can't answer a simple question. She is so overmatched. It's sad. It's uncomfortable. But I guess it doesn't matter because, she likes women. She likes women. That's the most important thing. Right, Joe? Anyway, let me tell you about Shea Concrete. Let me tell you what they can do for you. It can help you with your new home improvement project. You want to get something done this summer. I got one for you. Brand new precast concrete steps. If you're building a new home or remodeling an old home, getting rid of an old staircase, Shea has great values with designs that will fit your home. They have many options available, including concrete, or you can customize with beautiful stone or brick. A new staircase can dramatically upgrade the front entrance of your home, giving you much better curve appeal. Shea will remove the old stairs. That's not easy to do either. And they'll have you walking up your brand new front steps within hours. When they are done, you'll have a great looking new entrance that will add value to your home. It's an investment. It's not an expense. With one phone call, Shea will deliver a turnkey installation appearance. In a few hours, you'll have a brand new front entrance. All the neighbors will be jealous. Learn more about their precast concrete steps at sheaconcrete.com. And while you're there, maybe you can look for a job. Shea is hiring. They're always hiring. It's a great company. Business is booming. Right now, they have between 15 and 20 open positions available. These are career opportunities for all different types of people with different types of skill sets. All you got to do is pass a drug test. All right, let's get to it. Is it the? I know she was bumbling and stumbling all over the place yesterday, but do we have the question about the baby formula? No.
Yes.
Is it about baby formula?
Yep.
It doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter what it is. She has no answer. It's just embarrassing, and I don't know how much longer they can leave her there. But she's just not up for the job. I mean, it's the easiest job in the world. You just sit there, and obviously the media, for the most part, is on your side. They're there to help you. They're there to help the president, and you just have to tell lies and spin and basically speak in cliches. But she can't even do that. Let's listen.
So I have two questions on baby formula. So first, what is the latest update the White House has received on the current infant formula situation across the country?
Yeah, let me see if I have anything new for you on that. So I think it's been a couple days since we have been asked that question. Okay. I don't have anything new. I know we made some announcements last week. I just don't have them in front of me.
Oh, she does. I don't have. Looks in her notebook, can't find anything. Says I don't have anything. I guess I give her credit for not just lying. Like Jen Psaki would have had just spun that thing and blame Trump or whatever. And, oh, we're doing some amazing things, flying in formula from Europe, and she just can't do it. And I'm telling you, not the whole press conference, but there's like this every day. She just vapid, talking about great the economy is. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you can grab this one. She was asked why Biden hasn't said anything about the attempt on Brett Kavanaugh's life. And she said, oh, the president talked about that. He's very sympathetic. He never mentioned it. I know her job is to lie, but everyone's looking going, no, actually, the president never mentioned Brett Kavanaugh and the attempted murder. Still hasn't mentioned it. They don't mind it at all. I mean, they don't want Brett Kavanaugh to get murdered, but they want him to be intimidated. They want him to be scared. They know he has gotten a little squishy in the past, so they're okay with this. They're okay with the protests, as we know, outside their houses. They're okay with the conservative judges being scared for their lives. Yeah. If not, why don't they say something about it? Why don't they condemn it? Why don't they say, get away, leave their families alone? But they don't, because they're not upset by it. But
I have it right here.
I mean, this is just flat out untrue, and everyone in the media room knows it. But go ahead.
It has now been reported that the marshals, our administration assigned to help protect judges, were instrumental in the person not accomplishing the horrible deed he set out to do. This is the threat that we saw against Kavanaugh. And so we have taken this very seriously. Like you said, we have condemned it. The president has, and we will continue to do so.
It's just not true, just completely. But you know what? It doesn't feel nefarious. She just feels overmatched. She just doesn't know what she's doing. It's amazing. Again,
Don Lemon put her in a locker.
Oh, that's true. Do we have time for this? Do you have the Don Lemon?
I do.
This is a bad sign when Don Lemon is asking a actually good question of Karine Jean-Pierre, and she takes offense because he's asking about the absolute, deterioration cognitively of the president and how he's just not up for the job, doesn't have the stamina or the energy. I guess, they're desperate at CNN. They're actually going to start doing some journalism. And this was a good example. Don Lemon, and I guarantee you, he loves her and thinks it's wonderful that she's there because, again, she doesn't like men, and she's a person of color and her parents come from some other country. Those are important. She's incompetent, but those are important. And Don Lemon is rooting for her, but he still felt the need to ask a good question. Let's listen.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with him. We just got back from New Mexico. We just got back from California. That is not a question that we should be even asking. Just look at the work that he does. Look how he's delivering for the American public. Look, that article that we're talking about is hearsay. It's salacious. That's not what we care about. We care about how are we going to deliver for the American people? How are we going to make their lives better? That's what the president talks about. That is his focus. And that's where we're going to continue to focus on.
You know what? I don't think I've ever done this. Got to give Don Lemon credit. Not only does he ask a good question, but he doesn't crack a smile. He's not looking to get playful. He's like, seriously, the president is unfit and everyone knows it. And she's, I can't believe you'd ask that. I can't either. I can't believe he asked that.
I thought his inflation question was even better.
What I didn't hear this one. What did he ask about inflation?
Yeah, about how it's going for Biden and all that. I got right here.
All right, let's listen.
Many economists do cite the war in Ukraine and supply chain issues. We did have that before the war, supply chain issues. They also say that last year's stimulus package, which you mentioned, contributed to inflation. Karine, does the Biden administration bear some responsibility for this?
So first of all, the American Rescue Plan met the moment, and it has put us in a place where we can actually put us in a place where the American people feel can actually, we can take on inflation. What I mean by that is we've seen growth, right, with as I mentioned, more than 8 million jobs, and now we're transitioning into a stable growth. The president actually wrote an op-ed to discuss that himself, lay out his plan on how we're going to bring down inflation.
It's just uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. The president wrote an op-ed. I mean, she tells a lot of lies. It's her job, but that could be the worst one of all. You think the president could write, a grocery list on his own? He couldn't do it. He couldn't. No. I mean, the president wrote an op-ed.
I like how Don's getting his Tucker face when they're answering.
No, I'm telling you, the pressure's on. They apparently got layoffs coming at CNN, and their new boss is determined to do some journalism. And maybe Don is going to, maybe he's going to change. And grilling Karine and putting her on the spot, that's pretty good. But it put us in the place to put us in the place. That's a great answer. Very insightful. But she's going nowhere. She'll continue to stumble and bumble just like her boss. And we'll be here for it. We're here for it because, man, is she out of her league and over her head. All right, we don't have time to get into this LeBron story. We'll do it tomorrow, or we'll do it this week. It's incredible. There was a murder in the parking lot. A white kid beaten to death by a bunch of black kids. LeBron James has nothing about it. He before they even identified the kids or caught the perpetrators, he said thoughts and prayers to whoever. But if this were, the other way around, it'd be the biggest story. LeBron would be tweeting about it, demanding justice, but it doesn't fit his narrative. It was in his parking lot, but it doesn't fit his narrative. So we've heard nothing. Maybe we'll hear something from LeBron. We've heard from the victim's family, who flat out said it was racial, but LeBron doesn't care because it didn't go his way. But we'll see if he has anything to say for the next day or two, and we'll give you an update on that tomorrow. But we'll leave it there for today. Quickly, Paul Pelosi, there's the mugshot. Finally released the mugshot. I have to say, for an 82-year-old drunk, he looks pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. He's got all his hair, probably fake, but there's another mugshot going around, a meme going around where he's got the Nancy Pelosi eyebrows. Have you seen that one?
No.
Someone put the Nancy eyebrows on him, which is funny as hell. But thankfully, Jesse Waters and others have pressured the DA out there. They had to release the mugshot. They're now working on the dash cam or the body cam or the results of the breathalyzer. They're trying to bury it. The fix is in. I'm not sure it'll succeed because there's a lot of pressure because we know if this were just average schmuck, idiot on the street. We'd already have all the info, including the dash cam and the results of the breathalyzer. They're trying to spike the story. Hopefully they don't succeed. 82 years old, out in his Porsche, drunk. And we also don't know who's in the car with him. It wasn't Nancy. It wasn't Nancy. We don't know who. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. But we will await further evidence from the cops and the DA out there in Napa. But that is Paul Pelosi. Again, shouldn't be driving, but I sure don't blame him for drinking. Knowing that you're going home to that, I don't blame him if he self-medicates and tries to numb the pain. But we'll leave it there for today. We'll keep track of that one. We'll see if we get the dash cam footage, and we'll see if the refs continue to screw the Celtics in Game 6 back in Boston. It's going to be good. I like it. I like this series. That game last night was wild, and I expect more of the same in Game 6 and in Game 7 on Sunday. And we'll be following the U.S. Open. Can't wait. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. But we'll leave it there for today. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Thanks to you, Ironhead. I'm Jerry Callahan.